What up, player? It's your dictator, Donald J. Trump. Big titties are a man's best friend. Bright lights, big titty. What up, big titty? Sick old bitties. It's my very secret way of saying big old titties. I have the best words. Nobody has words like I do.
This is my favorite podcast, The Vocal Minority with Nick and Steve. I have to listen to the show in the closet, but don't feel bad for me. I do all kinds of shit in the closet. Here they come. Get your ass ready. Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. Yeah, and back for another podcast. It's the endorsed Vocal Minority with Nick and Steve.
Can we reject endorsements? Is that a thing?
Can we or do we?
Can we? I mean, normally when a celebrity endorses you or a president, of course you embrace them.
Yeah, no. I think we can reject them. I can't stop them from endorsing us, but we can reject our acceptance of them.
If you're a reject, we will reject your endorsement of us. So
yes.
But hey, thanks for listening. It's very nice of him.
Wherever you're listening, closet, car, house, office, wherever, we appreciate it. The Vocal Minority with Nick and Steve. See our socials and welcome to the podcast, BT Dubs.
Indeed. And I got to circle back. Let's do our regular plugs. And I got to ask you a question about listening in closets, listening wherever you are. So.
Okay.
Social medias, we got them. Let's see, Reddit, YouTube, our favorites. We do love TikTok. I don't know when you're listening to this if TikTok will still be a thing or not. I would strongly suggest if it is not yet the 19th that you update that app to keep it going for as long as possible while our powers that be try to sort that fun out.
If TikTok does leave, I think that we should vow to the audience to hold a funeral for TikTok, like a live funeral of, we can say some things and really show our love and respect to TikTok as we bury it.
Where are we going to do that, though? On some social media platform that no one's watching?
Oh, that's true. Well, we'll just put it out as a podcast that people can at least listen to and enjoy.
I got you. We'll work on that. You can find our website, thevocalminority.net. And if you want to pick up a telephone, we have a comment line.
Yeah, you can call us at 844-48-VOCAL. Use your telephone as a microphone.
I'm circumcised. I got my son circumcised. I'm not religious.
That's Steve, and I'm Nick. Welcome to the program.
Sounds odd when I say I got my son circumcised, like I took him to Jiffy Lube or something and just had them do it.
I made it happen. I paid for it.
That's true. That is true, actually.
So.
Speaking of my son, I was asking Kennedy and my son, my good buddy Emily back in Michigan, the same question that I will now pose to you, Nicholas.
Okay.
If you listen to an ebook, does it count as reading the book?
No. I guess we should get used to saying like, oh, I listened to that book instead of I read that book. Because you want to be able to still talk about it with somebody who may have read it, may have listened. So I think we usually just throw out, oh, I read that book.
So you're saying it's more of an all-encompassing term. That I read it means I listened to it. It means I absorbed the knowledge of the book.
I know oftentimes when people have listened to that book that they'll say, oh, I read that book, and then feel like they have to make the distinction. Like I listened to it, but you know what I mean. But yes, it's all encompassing, I would say.
So Kennedy, Emily, and my son Crosby, they all said, like, of course it counts as reading the book. Like, that's such a semantic thing to say. You absorbed the knowledge of the book. You spent time absorbing it. So, yeah, you read it. I didn't agree with that. I felt like, I have always felt like ebooks are cheating. I feel like part of the badge of honor of reading a book is spending the time actually reading it. But maybe that's more of a commentary that I don't like reading long-form things and struggle to some extent keeping my focus and whatnot.
Sure. No, I guess I get both sides of it. Like, I understand that you are taking in the knowledge. So, in essence, like, you're still gaining the same thing and some people learn. I'm an auditory learner. Mm-hmm. Like, I have a harder time reading. So, we're getting the same knowledge. We're just, I'm shooting heroin and you're smoking heroin. Okay, I mean, it's just a different delivery method.
I will tell my son that is what Uncle Nick said.
Okay. Yes, I want to make it easy for him. So,
no, good. All right. Well, yeah. I mean, to me, ebooks they're talk radio. They're a podcast. It's somebody sitting there talking to you for hours at a time. Like, so yeah, I can do an ebook. That's fine. I always thought it was cheating, so I've never gotten into ebooks, but now I'm getting into them because, on one level, I do want to absorb the knowledge. Like, I get that, but apparently I get to say I'm a reader now.
Yeah, well, welcome to the club, dude, because I am also a reader. I listen to audiobooks. I can't make it through many books actually reading because the same thing, like I'll get done with the page and forget. What did I just read? And Rachel's got the imagination that in order for me to take that information in and have it affect me, I need the inflection. I can't imagine it like she can. She imagines what she's reading and it paints a beautiful picture. I'm not that guy.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I've learned very quickly that a big part of the issue for me is who's reading the ebook. Because if you're a bad reader or you're not engaging or you don't have inflections, and I can't get into it at all,
Yeah.
It just drones out on me. And so like I'm reading Drift by Rachel Maddow right now. Like, it's Rachel Maddow. She knows how to speak publicly, so
Yes.
I find that to be, just fine. There was some other book that it was a good topic, but I got like half a chapter in. It was like, it's the author reading it. She was miserable at reading, couldn't do it. I listened to another one, War by Bob Woodward, I started, and he hired some voice actor to read it for him. The problem I have with it is it's written in Bob Woodward's perspective. So this guy's essentially pretending to be Bob, but then there are quotes from other people, Trump being the big one in the book War. So the guy's just like, he's reading it as if he's Bob Woodward, and then he says the quote from Trump in the same voice. Like, I need some difference, some inflection. You don't have to do a parody of the Trump or something, but I need some way to know, when is this Trump's words?
Right. Yeah, no, that's a great point, dude. I feel like for people who read, by listening to books, it's uber important for me, too, that I cannot get on board with someone who I just, was no good at telling an actual story. And, my dad, I grew up, in the 80s. He was a traveling salesman. So he was always playing tapes in his car because all we had was radio, right? So when he was driving across the country, there were no radio stations. So he had tapes of all different kinds of stories, but oftentimes he would have motivational speakers. There was a motivational speaker he used to play when I was a kid that I didn't really agree with what he had to say, but the way he said it, dude, drew me in so deeply that I still, sometimes I go listen to his stuff just because it takes me back to that place. Like, it's really important.
Yeah. I mean, we know very well the art of being a good public speaker. You can be reading a boring news report or weather or something. If you do it with some personality and inflection, of course it keeps people listening longer. Having said that, I still drift, though, I've realized. Because when I read, I have the same problem. I can get a few pages in, and then I'll finish a page and realize, like, I didn't absorb any of that. I was thinking about dinner or something. And I've had the same issue with ebooks, where after a couple of chapters, I realized, like, I didn't pay attention to the last 2 minutes. I was completely thinking about something else. So it's not a silver bullet, but it's significantly easier than sitting down to read.
Yes. No, you're right. I've been in the same position and never truly understood with audiobooks. A lot of people listen to audiobooks on 2 times speed. I could never do that, dude.
Yeah. Listen, mental health experts are saying that that's a terrible thing that we're starting to do. Listening to podcast, audiobooks, and twice speed. There's a thing on TikTok now. You can speed up the videos. Like, it's killing our attention spans because our brain needs those natural pauses and the ebb and flow of somebody speaking to you. So when it's just being sped out, word after word after word, like it's hurting your brain. Do not do that. Okay.
Yeah, you may think that it is safe and is just making you productive, but psychology would tell you otherwise. Steve, I came across this list that, I don't know, it grabbed me right away. It's called People in Your Life Who Seem Safe, but should actually be avoided, according to psychology.
Like a priest or something?
Yeah, I mean, that may be on the list. I don't know. The first one on this list is love bombers. They say that these are people that you should stay away from. Do you know what a love bomber is?
I do, because I've been accused of it. Usually it's in a dating circumstance where you tell someone you love them too quickly. And apparently Hollywood has led us all astray of love at first sight and grand romantic gestures. Apparently now you're a little psycho if you tell someone you love them too quickly or too often, which is also garbage. I've had a million therapists say that you should be saying you love whoever multiple times a day, to your wife, to your spouse, to your kids, to your parents, whatever. But now it's love bombing.
I guess, this really focuses on the not saying it too early, but talks about like, oh, you love bomb me because you text me all day long. Like, you're not good with being away from me. You're, I guess, in a way, codependent, and you're showing it by love bombing and, suffocating someone.
Right. Listen, the line between codependency and being romantic apparently is more blurry than I had ever realized, because my therapist a couple of years ago threw that term out to me, that you've got some codependent, tendencies.
Right.
And as we talked about it, it's like, yeah, like needing someone or wanting someone or saying like, I need my partner in life. Oh, that's codependent. And I asked my shrink, like, well, what level of codependency? And she was like, well, that's a good question, because every relationship is codependent by definition. You're in a relationship. You're relying on someone else.
Sure.
But she's like, are you 1% codependent or 99% codependent? There's a whole spectrum. So good luck figuring it out.
And this is what you got to worry about in your head, dude. Because when you're feeling it, you're feeling the emotion that you're going through. As long as you guys are both on the same page, I don't know why it would be a problem. It may be a problem if the other person's like, dude, I don't love you. Like,
Yes.
I'm not feeling that. Then it's going to be a big problem. But if you're both feeling it, I don't know. Why not express it? When you were alone, did you feel truly happy? And I mean truly happy.
No. Like, I don't know that I can be truly happy just alone. I can be content. I can accept that reality, but no.
And I think that is a great distinction to make. Like, yes, people can be content. We are creatures that crave other people, like that's our DNA. That's how we're made. And some people have it more than others. But I've heard oftentimes, like, you got to be happy with yourself before you can make someone else happy. I understand the concept of it. Sure. But if you're going through a period of time where you're like, I love cherry ice cream, and I'm not going to have any cherry ice cream and try and be as happy as I can about it. Like, why?
Yes.
Like, eat the ice cream.
How far do you take that? You're not going to do your hobbies. Oh, I don't want to be codependent with my dirt bike or my guitars or something. Like, yeah, I don't know. And around my house, the word love is thrown out a zillion times a day. I mean, my son is homesick. I literally just went and checked on him in between recordings. And, how you doing? You good? You need anything? No? Cool. All right, I got to go back to record. All right, I love you. Like, I have taught my kids that's just, you say it like you breathe. I go to the grocery store. I tell my kids, I love you. I'll be back. I love you. Like, I don't think there's too much love. Having said that, if you're in a relationship and you're texting somebody 78 times a day and they think that's too much, then that's adult communication of just, hey, dial it back. I don't want to feel like, I have to respond within 30 seconds. Well, have a little ebb and flow, a little balance. But to say that because you love me so much, you want to text me so much, that's love bombing and that's negative. Respect boundaries, but why hold back on love?
I agree, dude. I mean, I do agree with that. I say it in my house often. I once heard a guy say, like, don't not say I love you, because when that person's gone, you'll think about all the times that you didn't say it, right? If you don't. And that hit me hard, dude. I was like, of course, dude. Say it as much as you can. We don't know what the next 5 minutes holds. So I want you to know.
Yeah, spot on. So many people have said that. Like, I never told my dad I loved him, and, now he's gone. And there's so many families where the word love, like a couple of relationships ago, that caught that woman off guard as to how often not only was I saying it to her, but to my kids, to my parents. She heard me on the phone. She was like, no one ever said that in my family. Once a year, maybe one of my parents would tell me they love me. And like, that is a zillion times more damaging than saying it too much.
Agreed, dude. I completely agree. And I love you, brother. It's just, in case something happens in the next 5 minutes,
And I'm very fond of you as well.
I appreciate that. I just got friend zoned.
I love you. We've had this discussion. I try to deflect with humor and whatever, but obviously I wouldn't tolerate you if I didn't love you.
That's true. This is a list of people in your life who seem safe but should actually be avoided. All right. This is according to the professionals, for crying out loud. The next one on the list is chronic people pleasers. Chronic people pleasers also seem very safe but should actually be avoided. At first, their willingness to help out seems appealing, but people pleasers often have passive-aggressive tendencies that can negatively affect your relationship with them.
I don't feel like I've ever had someone in my life who's trying to please me. So
You don't?
No. I mean, listen, Kennedy, one of the reasons she stands out in my, lifetime of love is that she actually does seem to respect and appreciate me. I do feel seen and heard by her. And that catches me off guard constantly. And it's a pathetic reminder that I've never had that in my life. I'm not saying she's a people pleaser. I'm just saying, like, she actually puts effort into trying to making me feel good. And that's a foreign concept. So someone who's a true, like, over-the-top people pleaser, always trying to suck up and make my life easier, like, I've never seen that. So
makes me feel bad. Not even from, well, have you seen it with, like, your mother, right?
I guess. People pleasing, though? I don't know. Because where do you draw the line between somebody who actually gives a crap about you versus now they're a people pleaser?
Sure. Yeah, I guess it's hard to know. I guess the average person is like you say, like sometimes they got their own shit going on, but in general, like I want you to know that I feel good about you, and I'm going to let you know that, make you feel that. But yeah, there's off days.
Do you think you've had a true people pleaser in your life?
That's a tough question, dude. I mean, yes, I think my mom, when she was younger, especially as she's gotten older, she's got a little more piss and vinegar in her. But when she was younger, maybe she was a people pleaser. I think she had a hard time speaking up and saying things to people when she started back into the workforce. And she tried to please people, but I think it really comes from her heart. I don't think she's trying to manipulate a situation.
Yeah, and that's a valid point because, my shrink has told me a million times, I put everyone else in my life ahead of me. And I've crept up onto like the top 3 list in the last year or two. And that's been a healthy progress.
That's progress, right?
But does that make me a people pleaser per se, or just someone who gives a crap about those in my life and I'm trying to prioritize them? I mean, so I don't know. I don't have real good context. There's certainly no one in my life who I think is a people pleaser that I would need to eliminate. I would think that more comes up in the workplace where there's some brown noser maybe sucking up to the boss or something.
Yeah. Some people feed off like, I thrive when I'm able to help people. And a lot of people feel that way. Like that's what gives me energy is to help people. I want to nurture those relationships. So does that make it bad that I get something from it too?
Right. Was Jimmy Carter a people pleaser building all those homes for humanity? Or
right.
Is the Pope a people pleaser? Was Jesus a people pleaser? Like, I don't know where you draw the distinction there.
Yeah. I think as long as it stays healthy, I guess that's, the distinction you have to make.
Okay. It's a good problem for anyone to have. So go get a real problem.
Next one on this.
Someone who's a people pleaser. This person's always trying to make me happy. Just what a problem.
I got 99 problems, and this is definitely one. He's such a people pleaser. These are people in your life who seem safe, but should actually be avoided. Self-described nice guys. I want to get your thoughts on this because I know that, we've both said in the past, like, I'm a nice guy, dude. I mean, what's the problem? But that's what a nice guy would tell you. When you were dating, you had to tell a lot of people that.
Yes. Talk about a trap, a catch-22. Because, of course, we're nice guys. Of course you want to be a nice guy. There are so many toxic, damaging, selfish men in this world that, yeah, it's okay to say or to want to be a nice guy. The problem is there's so many other douchebags out there that run around manipulating you, saying they're nice, saying they're honest, that it makes you look like you're the liar or the sociopath to say, like, hey, I'm a nice guy. You can trust me.
Some would say, and we'll get into a little bit about what this says, but that being a nice guy is something you should let everyone form their own opinion, right? If you're really a nice guy, they'll know that after hanging out with you for a few hours. Like, wow, he's a nice guy.
Well, for sure. It's something. And listen, in my dating past, whenever I have found the situation where I say, like, no, I'm one of the good ones. I'm a nice guy. I know that's what a bad guy would tell you, though, so time will have to tell, and you're going to have to determine if I'm the nice guy or if I'm just trying to pull the wool over your eyes.
Yes. They say someone who describes himself as a nice guy could be an issue for you. They'll tell you how thoughtful they are, how much they respect women, but their words often don't match up with their actions. Self-proclaimed nice guys, they want to be congratulated for having basic human decency, but most of the time they're just basic people.
Yeah, that's fair. So here's a question for you. So Kennedy's daughter's in her early 20s, and she's out dating, and she's had issues for sure trying to find a good guy, a nice guy. And she recently said to Kennedy something along the lines of, I just assume pretty much all men cheat, you know? And she even said, all right, maybe someone like Steve doesn't cheat because I know he's like actually a nice guy or whatever. But most men suck. Most men are going to be cheaters and whatnot. So my question to you is, what do you think the percentage is of actual nice guys out there?
Well, I think it's probably great because the term nice guy means so many different things to so many different people.
Sure.
You know, like
A
it
good
depends.
guy, you know, like someone who would be a good partner, who's not going to cheat on. Sure, they have flaws, but they're not going to be the overt douchebag guys.
That I get maybe. I don't know. If I think about it like this, in my friend life, who I know has been a good guy and a douchebag, it's probably 50%, maybe 40% nice guy, 60% douchebag.
Yeah, I would agree. When I look around my life of people I've known, like Nick Reynolds, you're a good guy. You know, my buddy Brian, that we ride dirt bikes together, he's a good guy. He's a nice dude. I've gotten to know him well enough that he's one of the good ones. But when I think about every other guy I've ever known, socialized with, worked with, most of them are not good guys. So I actually think 40% is probably high. I'm going to be generous and say probably 25% of men are actually good dudes. The rest, yeah, they're not. They are the liars, the cheaters, the scammers. They don't give a crap about your emotions or trying to get in your pants, get your money, or whatever it is. I don't think it's 50-50. It's certainly not the majority.
But we talked about on the podcast last week that there's a Republican and he said something about, oh, I like Mike Johnson. He's never cheated on his wife, and he's really a good guy. Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is there are different levels. Like somebody may think he's a nice guy because he doesn't cheat. But like you said, he beats his kids, and, you know, I'd rather have him not cheat. So a nice guy entails everything nice, I suppose. I don't
think you
cheat.
should say you're a nice guy just because you don't cheat on your wife, but you're, you know, gambling or stealing. Like, yeah, I mean, are you a truly nice guy? And I'm not saying I'm perfect or you're perfect, but our intentions are always good. And I just know from knowing other men who are the good dudes trying their best versus those straight up scamming you playing the game out there.
Yeah. This is a list of people that seem safe in your life, but you should probably avoid this type of person. Perfectionists. Perfectionists are another example of people in your life who seem safe, but should actually be avoided. At first, perfectionists give off positive or at least neutral vibes. After all, what's wrong with striving for perfection? You get to know them a little better, and their negative attributes can oftentimes begin to peek through the cracks of their apparently flawless facade.
Blah, blah, and blah. First of all, a perfectionist is not somebody who is a perfect human being. Okay, like I am a bit of a perfectionist. Never would I claim to be a perfect human being. It just means I have a certain standard I strive for. Like a certain work ethic or a certain ethic of keeping my house clean or paying bills on time. Like if I do an art project, I want it to be perfect in my mind. Like those are perfectionist things. It's a big leap, though, to try to say, because I'm a perfectionist, I'm a perfect person. Those aren't the same thing.
Well, here's a good question for you. Because you are a perfectionist, I am not. Maybe about certain things, but not generally speaking in my life, am I a perfectionist? Yeah. Hurts a little to say that. But do you look down on me or people like me that are not perfectionists?
No, I don't at all. And that's something I've gotten where I keep my house really clean. I've had women be like, you make me feel like a pig because, you keep your house so clean. And first of all, I never projected that onto you. I never said anything about your house or your apartment or whatever. Like, that's you.
It's my insecurity.
Right. So I'm sorry that I'm bringing that insecurity out in you. If I'm a judgmental perfectionist, then of course that's a problem. I'm just being a judgmental prick at that point and pretending I'm better than you. But I don't do anything like that. And okay, so I have a certain way I want to do the dishes. Like, poor you live with someone who's going to do the dishes because I want it done my way. Like, is that really a problem?
That's not a perfectionist. That's a control freak, which I am when it comes to the dishwasher as well.
Because you want it done perfectly. That's my point. I'm not trying to control. Just I have certain standards here of how I want to do this. So, poor you. You don't have to vacuum because I'm not doing to control the situation. Trust me. I'd be more than happy to give up control of things like that. But if you don't do them the way I want them, like, why even go there? I'll just take care of that for us. Problem solved. I'm not judging you. I'm helping you.
So that right there is where I'm not trying to diagnose you with anything, but that's where your OCD comes into your perfectionist lifestyle, right?
They overlap heavily, for sure.
Yeah. It's real interesting that, some people like to do, I can tell you from my point of view of not being a perfectionist, that, like you said, that's my insecurity if I feel this way. I'll tell you this with my mom. My mom, she keeps her house immaculate, okay? I've never seen it messy. And when she comes over to my house, I have some insecurities. And I told her, I was like, you keep your house so nice that I don't have time for some of the stuff, dusting your blinds weekly, stuff like that. Like, I don't have time for that stuff. And it does make me feel a little insecure. She told me, like, there's different stages of life. Like, when I worked all the time, I didn't have the opportunity to do this stuff. Like, I don't judge. This is just where I'm at now. I don't work. I'm home all the time. And I get that, but I still feel a little insecure about it.
Well, that's your issue to figure out. It's not your.
Well, help me through it, dude. Why don't you help me through it? I mean, you're good at helping through. Why is that why do I have that insecurity?
Listen, I'm not a therapist. I mean, this could come from your childhood. It could come from former relationships. Maybe you just have a standard you feel like you're not living up to. But either way, it's not your mom's fault for having a clean home. I've gotten this with exercise too. Like, oh, you work out consistently. You make me feel like a fat pig. Like, that's you. I can't make you feel anyway. So why are you feeling that way? Hire someone with a degree and maybe start to figure it out.
Yeah, so you're telling me, go to your professional help. You can't help me with that?
No, I don't know why you feel that way. You do, right. And that's fair and fine. And if you acknowledge it, you can work on it. But I can't get in your head and backtrace. I mean, that's one thing I've learned from therapy, man. Like, so much of this stuff really does start in our childhood and youth. So if I was my therapist, I would ask you, when is the first time in your life that you can remember feeling like you were sloppy or you didn't keep a clean room or house?
Oh, and
as far back as you can.
All right. It was 30 years old.
30?
Yeah.
Okay. Who made you feel that way? What was the situation that you felt like you were keeping a clean home?
I had some life-changing things happen to me, and I moved after being in a house for a long time and was going through some depression and just didn't give a fuck, Like, I'm not saying I lived in squalor or anything, but I started being messy, like didn't do things right away. Like when I would take off my clothes to put on sweats at night or something like that, like I wouldn't fold my clothes and put them away. I'd throw them on, the bed.
Gotcha.
That's how it started.
So when was the first time someone made you feel bad for not folding your clothes or not keeping a clean room? Couldn't have been at 30.
I think it was myself, dude. I think it was myself thinking like, what the fuck am I doing, dude? Like, that's not how I've always done it. That's not how I live.
Listen, if I was better at this, I could probably trace it better, but I don't know the right answer. But it comes from somewhere in your past. And it's usually about, that first time you were ever made to feel that way. And if you can go back and sort of diffuse that, it may help later in life, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
tires shrink. But it's not someone else's fault that you feel a certain way. And your feelings are never wrong. But you got to figure out where the feeling comes from.
Yeah.
Usually it's a story.
Yeah, it's easier to blame other people than have to look internally for stuff, right? I mean, that's what it boils down to. So,
yes.
These are people that may be in your life who seem safe, but should actually be avoided. Social chameleons, which I proclaim myself as a social chameleon. I don't know why this is a bad thing. Are you saying I have the ability to be fake? Because that's not what I think a social chameleon is.
Yeah, do they define it in this article?
People who act like chameleons and change their personality depending on their social situation seem safe, but they should actually be avoided. While most people let certain parts of their personality shine through depending on who they're with, people who shapeshift and completely change who they are is not nearly as safe. Yeah. So I think maybe that means like, I'll give up some of my convictions, the things I believe in to please you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're taking the extreme example there. Being a quote-unquote social chameleon, as far as if you're hanging out with lawyers or doctors, you have a certain type of conversation versus if you're hanging out with the dudes at a bar, you might like that. To me is a social chameleon, someone who reads the room and responds appropriately. But what they're talking about is somebody who changes their personality based on what room they're in. So if I show up at some mega party and I start saying Trump's awesome and all that, like, that's not being a shifting to the room. That's changing my personality. That would be a true chameleon. And yeah, how would you ever know who that person is? How would you ever be able to trust anything they say?
Yes, that's the distinction right there, is that if you turn into a different person, go against your beliefs that make you who you are, then yeah, that's a true chameleon. But socially, I can be in any environment and have a conversation or know how to act. Read the room, right?
Yeah. That reminds me of the people pleaser thing, that if you're just willing to say whatever someone wants to hear, then yeah, no, I wouldn't trust that person any further than I can bowl them. Some of you, that's a decent distance, but not all.
You think so?
I could chuck some of you pretty good, I think, yeah.
What, because you know karate? Is that why?
No. If the lane is greased properly and you're a skinny mini, I think I could get you all the way down to the end of the lane. Yeah, for sure.
Things that you pondered that I never have. These are all people in your life we're talking about who seem safe but should actually be avoided, according
hold on. You don't think you could chuck a 10-year-old all the way down to the end of the lane?
I mean, now that I think about it, if I wanted to, I probably could.
What about?
But I don't think there's not a lot of 10-year-olds listening to this podcast.
How about little people then? Like Peter Dinklage or Dinklage, however you pronounce his name, the famous actor guy. You could chuck that guy all the way down the lane if he's being disingenuous.
Boy, I don't know, because he's thick. I mean, he's the weight of a small, he's big. A tiny little person, I could probably bowl down the alley. If you grabbed them by their waist and their shoulder and just kind of threw them down a greased alley, sure.
I think you're selling yourself short. You could chuck 30% of this population all the way down the lane.
Okay. I appreciate the compliment, dude.
You're welcome.
As we get back into this list, these are people who are in your life that seem safe but should actually be avoided. Complainers. People who always complain might seem safe, but they should actually be avoided. Obviously, complainers are going to bring down your life, dude. I mean, perspective and being positive goes a long way. Always easy? No. But when you're around complainers, it becomes that much harder.
Of course. If you're hanging around genuine people that you have a genuine relationship, there's going to be complaints mixed in there every now and again because they're sharing. But yeah, a true Debbie Downer or a true Eeyore, as I often hear in the business world and whatnot, like, yeah, those aren't positive people to be around. You're never going to get anything productive out of them. And they're probably just going to drag the room down like the SNL sketch with Debbie Downer.
Do you think you have to be that complete downer like that? Or, I mean, it's still dangerous to be around people like, how was your day? Oh, this happened. The guy cut me off. And then I, flat tire going in the driveway. Like, there are people in my life that have complained too much that I said, whew, dude, let me know when you get your attitude straight. Like, I can't take all that.
Yeah, listen, there may be some people, it's a loaded question to ask how your day was because there's going to be something bad. But yeah, I mean, honestly, some people do have miserable days and they want to be able to share that. But you got to zoom out on this one. If somebody's always complaining, then I don't know how they would feel safe to meet the headline of this article. I don't think that person's safe at all. I don't see why that would be confusing in my
Yeah, that's true. That's a valid point. When you ask questions, sometimes do you just want the nicety? What, like when you walk up to the grocery clerk and you say, how's your day? And they say, good. How's yours? Even without much thought of maybe it's not going good. Do you ask questions just for that reply, or do you really want them to say terrible, dude?
No, this is a social contract we're all supposed to have with each other. If I just ask some Joe Schmo, how you doing today? And you start telling me that your mom just died, you got diagnosed with cancer, and no one wants that. How you doing today is just another way of saying hi, and you're supposed to say doing great. Like, right. Yes. No, that's a big red flag, especially, God, and I've had that with the checker or whatever. Like, hey, how you doing today? Well, honestly, my dog just got hit by no, people.
No, don't tell me that, because it makes it so uncomfortable. You're like, wow, I'm sorry to hear that.
Ask you, or I ask Kennedy, how's your day going? And you're hiding terrible things that have happened. Like, obviously, I want you to feel safe to share these things. And even if you're having a bad year, I don't want to make some cumulative effect of you've complained 33 times already in the last 6 months, so no more complaints for the rest of the year.
You've used up all your tokens.
Right.
People in your life who seem safe but should actually be avoided. Fake supporters. People who offer you false support seem safe, but they should actually be avoided. Obviously, that's kind of a stupid one.
It seems like the people pleaser thing. Fake support. I don't know. I mean, on one level, as a parent, you probably do offer some level of quote unquote fake support of, maybe your kid says they want to be an NFL star, and that's probably not going to happen. So there's a difference between offering fake support and being just unnecessarily critical and blunt.
Also, fake support could be looked at as if you're having a struggle and I say, let me know if you need anything. And that just being a nicety. If you actually want to cash that chip in and I don't say I told you if you need anything. What if I just said I was just saying that, dude. I don't have time to help you. That's a fake supporter.
Well, that's another social contract sort of thing, right? If someone says, hey, I'll come help you move this weekend. Boy, you better be real sure that you want to cash in that favor. Usually someone's saying that to be polite. So, don't take it.
Yes. I always, with stuff like that, I always wait for, if you got to tell it to me at least twice, maybe 3 times. Hey, I was serious. If you need help moving today, this weekend, I'll help you. Then maybe I'll bite back, but I'm never going to bite back on the first one. I'm going to say, oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Right. And if someone says, boy, I'm just having a rough time, you're like, boy, I feel bad for you, man. Let me know if I can do anything to help. I need help painting my house this weekend. I didn't mean that literally.
Yes. These people in your life who seem safe but should actually be avoided. How about needy friends? You know what? I'm willing to give a little latitude on this. Sometimes the people in my life, if they're actually friends, are going to be a little more needy than other times. It depends what they're going through. And I'm an asshole if I'm like, man, you're being really needy, dude.
Yeah, of course. And again, what's the definition of needy? Just, hey, I need someone to vent to, or I'm asking you to come paint my house. It's another social contract. You got to know when to say when. Know when you're taking advantage of somebody. Because then that gets into these other categories of people that are either, people pleaser, sucking all your time and energy away, versus somebody who, we all have needs. It's a gray area as to how freaking far you're going to take that.
Yes. Balance. That's the answer.
The answer for everything is what I've realized in this world. Balance. Balance it all. And there's shades of it. If I want to say that, I don't know, maybe you're dating someone and they're, boy, when it comes to sex, they're really needy. Is that a problem for you? Really? They want you all the time. So poor pitiful me, I always got to be putting out or something. Depends what it's the puzzle piece. It's the yin and the yang. If they need sex all the time and you love sex all the time, well, that's just a match made in heaven there. But if it's, you don't want these things and someone's always needing them from you, then that's obviously an unhealthy, out of balance relationship, be it romantic or friend or coworker.
Good point, dude. Some of these on this list of people who seem safe in your life but should actually be avoided seem rather obvious to me.
Serial killers?
Well, maybe. Emotionally stoic people.
People that are just reserved with their emotions?
Yes. I mean, yeah, I would imagine a little, I don't know. I guess it boils down to the person. If you don't have any emotions and don't share your emotions with me, yes, I think you're a serial killer. I want nothing to do with you.
It depends, again, though, on the level of relationship. I have some dudes that I'll go meet to ride dirt bikes with or something that I don't need your whole life story, man. Like, we're just here for a little social event, whether it's riding dirt bikes or we're going to meet up for a concert. Like, I don't need your freaking life story. I'm not your therapist. But there are obviously people on the inner circle where, of course, I'm here for you for that kind of stuff.
Do you tell people that ever? Like, if somebody brand new was being too talkative or whatever, would you say, like, hey, I'm just here to hang, dude? Like, stop trying to get into all of this with me.
No, but you deflect or you shut them down and you hope they read the room. Like,
Yeah.
my mom just died, my dog ran away. You're like, oh, hey, I'm really sorry to hear that, man. What time's the concert starting at? Like, read the room. I don't want to get into this with you.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
That's more on their end than yours.
I think you'll agree with this one. I'll be interested in what you say. People in your life who seem safe but should actually be avoided. Conflict avoiders. What does that mean to you?
Well, listen, in a actual relationship, people avoiding conflict are toxic as hell, especially if it's a woman. I find women have this memory that never ends. My ex-wife was right up there on that list. She would do anything, little white lies or just avoiding stuff to avoid any sort of a conflict. But she never forgot. And then it always came up. Well, there was that time in 2008 when the friends came over and you told me. I went like, what? Like, you've been stockpiling this? Because they're trying to avoid conflict. But avoiding conflict only works if you then go resolve it elsewhere with your therapist, with your buddy or something. Otherwise, you're just stockpiling and it's all going to explode at some point on the nice guy, probably.
Just be resentment. Do you think there's any amount of conflict avoiding that is acceptable? Like, if we're hanging out, we're going to the zoo for the day, and hey, like, I know you've had a tough week, so I'm going to avoid conflict with you. Not today. Yes. I'll get to, give him his break. Is that okay?
Of course. There is always reading the room and knowing when is the appropriate time or place for anything like that. And we've said on the show before, if anyone's new to this show, if you go back 50 episodes, there was another guy on the show that is no longer here. And it's because we always talked about the fact that if we were just sitting around a bar, I wouldn't poke at some of these topics or wounds because it's just not appropriate to argue your religion with you while we're hanging out having pizza. But on a talk show, of course, it's appropriate to argue these things and try to have a debate and going back and forth. But yeah, you got to know when to hold them and when to fold them. So there's all sorts of scenarios where you should, of course, just avoid conflict. If you're out at a cocktail party and someone brings up politics, like, that's a great time to just avoid conflict.
Yeah, that's a great example, dude. Great example. These are a list of things that you should probably avoid. Maybe these people are in your life. They seem safe, but yeah, you should probably run. This is the last one I'll let you know. It's called a resentful helper. You ever experience that?
Yeah, I definitely have. This is something I've talked to my kids about, that if you're going to offer help to someone, just offer the help. Don't attach strings to it. Don't bitch and moan about it. Just offer the help. You didn't have to agree to drive you to the airport and then bitch and moan about it the entire way. You're losing all of the good karma, the goodwill you've put out by offering that favor, by then bitching and moaning about it constantly and making the other person feel bad.
Yes, you're right. I'll tell you, dude, that I have. What this can do is help you think a little bit more about offering to help people. Okay, because I was real quick to offer help to people, but found myself a lot of the time, like Saturday morning rolled around, I'm like, ugh, I don't know why I got to go do this, And it made me think about, hey, before you offer help, really think if that's going to work for you. Because you shouldn't throw it out so generously if you don't want to do it.
Right. It's the, going back to people pleaser again, like if that's your personality, there's going to be times where you probably realize that it shot you in the foot. So that's a little self-reflection that should go on, where you realize you've overstepped before, so maybe I should dial this help back a notch. And, my shrink has talked about that too. My shrink has told me it's okay to say, hey, can I help in any way? And then let the person tell you, yeah, I need a ride to the airport. I need help painting my house. Don't just say, hey, I'll paint your house for you. Like,
see, I struggle so much with that because I have a problem saying like, oh yeah, if you offer me help, I want it to be direct. Like, hey, I can take you to the airport on Friday. I don't want to have to say, oh yeah, I need a ride to the airport. I don't want to ask for help. You know what I mean? And that's a bad thing.
But if you needed help and I said, well, is there anything I can do? Would you not say, like, could you give me a ride? Is that an option?
It'd be hard for me.
Because you're a people pleaser?
Maybe. If I do say it, I really, really need it. I have a hero complex. I mean, that's been established in therapy,
Me too.
And I struggle with it. I've learned a bit in the past 6 months about it, but I struggle with it.
Sometimes there are constant reminders in your life that have served me well, at least. I have a cat running around this house that has served as a constant reminder of not just offering up the solution, of asking someone if you can do it. And if you're new to the show, I had an ex-girlfriend was adopted a cat. It was causing problems. And I just stepped in and said, let me take the cat for a few months. Let me get it out of your house. I'll try to house train it, get it mellowed out. And no one ever asked me to take the cat. I just jumped right to that. And then the relationship ended, and the girl was like, I don't actually want that cat back. And I'm like, I never wanted two cats. Like, no, your cat's kind of an asshole, in all honesty.
Yeah.
And when I told my therapist this whole story, she was like, oh, that's going to be a bit of a reminder for you for the next 10 years, as long as this cat lives, that maybe you should offer help, not the solution.
Do you resent that cat? Truthfully?
Yeah. I tell that cat on a weekly basis, you shouldn't be here. I don't know why you're here, okay? You should be grateful. You exist because I've allowed you to stay in this house.
There's been studies done on the fact that when you talk to somebody with a loving language, let them know, I love for you, I care for you, that they live longer. So you are slowly killing that cat with hate.
Well, that might be solving the problem then, won't it? So, and don't get me wrong, I do love this cat. I've grown to love him. He's definitely part of the crew here. But almost every day I am reminded you should not be here. And it's because I just went way too far with my help that now I have this burden emotionally, financially, and everything else.
Yeah. Well, some people would really argue that it does, if you stop and think about the things that you're offering with, they mean more because you're truly putting thought into it and not just throwing it out there.
If the cat could be less of an asshole, it would not remind me as often,
Why is your cat an asshole? What does he do?
He is a mischievous little MFer, He steals stuff. He scratches stuff. He picks on my other cat. He's constantly stealing Kennedy's, bracelets or little makeup things. I can't tell you how many times I've had to spend a week tearing this house apart trying to find her earring or whatever that the cat ran away with.
So he's being a cat. He's being a cat.
My other cat is a perfect little princess angel that never causes any problems. This dude is just a mischievous little brown tabby. It's just who they are. And on some levels, I respect and appreciate it. But on most levels, it drives me nuts.
Isn't it funny what we go through with pets, that alter our lives? Because, I got a pet. I got a responsibility here. So,
yeah,
I'll put up with it. Well, there you go. Are you hanging around people that are dangerous, Steve?
I don't think so anymore. I feel like either life or myself have weeded people out. It's kind of like this whole thing with Facebook where Zuckerberg announced they're not going to fact check articles anymore. Now, we could have talked about it on the political show. I'm very disappointed with him over that whole thing. But I already weeded everyone off of my Facebook friend list who would post any of that kind of garbage. I don't ever see fact-checked articles on my feed because I got rid of the humans that would even consider posting that kind of stuff. So have I weeded them out? Have I made it safer environment for me? Yes. Yeah.
Are you sure you've got everyone out that might post stuff like that?
If I haven't, they're not posting stuff because I'm not seeing it.
Zuckerberg was on Joe Rogan, and I was so dissatisfied with the conversation about all of this. Talking, we did talk on our political show about how the MAGA party or just flip-flop back and forth to whatever fits the current narrative. And that's totally what Zuckerberg is doing. Like, he talked about the whole disinformation thing with COVID, and that's what really made this happen. He was getting so much pressure by the government not to say this, but allow this, don't allow that. Yeah. And he is very much echoing Elon Musk.
Yes.
And his version of free speech.
It's so infuriating because, Zuckerberg said that fact-checking has become political. No, I mean, they're facts. They're not supposed to have a bias. That's the whole point. What you really are saying is one political party has put out so much misinformation that we're constantly having to fact check them, and that now appears that we have some sort of bias or we're out to get them. No, They started the fire. You're trying to put it out. Firefighters aren't political, just trying to put out a fire, just like fact checking is just trying to put light on a topic that, no, here's the fact. The reality that 90% of the things that have to be fact-checked are coming from one political party, it's not your fault for trying to fact-check.
You're so right. I couldn't help but think with that whole Zuckerberg thing. I even had this conversation with Rachel. I said, if you were him and you were generationally wealthy, like your grandkids aren't going to have to ever work, why would you conform to this? Like, why wouldn't you have just rolled the dice and see where everything landed with holding to your principles? What is that? Is that ultimate form of greed?
It's a tough one because when Trump won and like Jeff Bezos from Amazon and Zuckerberg from Facebook came out and gave, $1 million to the inauguration fund or whatever, like my sister called me. She was like, well, I guess I got to get rid of Facebook and I can't shop on Amazon anymore. And I told her, dial it back. Like, these are CEOs that are trying to protect their company. They're doing what Elon Musk doesn't do, and I always criticize him for. That Elon Musk is going home to his mansion no matter what. He doesn't give a crap about his employees, his investors losing a dollar. He should care about those people. So when Bezos and Zuck first came out, I was like, they're just being good businessmen. They're playing nicely to try to curry a little favor because they have people they need to protect. As long as they don't go too far with it, you don't have to ban Facebook or Amazon. But they both appear to be going too far with it, and it's making me worry. Because Zuck could have just given the $1 million to the inauguration fund or whatever. He didn't have to make principal changes to his company. He sure as hell didn't have to put Dana White on the board of directors for Facebook. That's going a little far right there.
I guess it depends what you want Dana White for. I mean, if it's for promotion and stuff like that, he's going to do a good job. Whether you like him or not is another story.
He's a mega spy put into Facebook to try to be on the inside and influence it from the ground up. Like, that's going way too far to bring someone into your company from MAGA world.
What is wrong with, say that Zuckerberg did the same thing that he did, but instead of coming out and saying like, yeah, we got to get on with this fact checking, you came out and said like, I've got a company of jobs, people to think about here. Like, I got to do what's best for the company. Why can't you just come out and say that?
It would be more genuine, and people like us would probably have a little more, leniency on him. So I don't know. I do not want to give up Facebook. I've been on it too long. I have a whole history there. And like I said, my news feed is, dialed into the good stuff, but you're going too far. And Bezos pulling editorials and political cartoons from the Washington Post that he owns, that's a little far. And a story I didn't get to last, episode, I'll just throw it out. Like, Bezos, he owns Prime. Prime now makes television content. They make TV shows and movies. They just licensed the rights to the Melania Trump, biography. and they paid her $40 million. That certainly looks like some sort of payoff or a bribe, because I don't think her story in any normal world of licensing would be worth $40 million. And it was just to get the rights. We'll see if he ever makes a documentary or whatever it is, but that seems to be going a little too far. There's a difference between we're going to play nicely and here's a payoff. Let me hire someone from your world to sit on my board of directors. Like, yeesh, it's making me nervous.
I didn't know that, dude. I mean, that is absolutely crazy, and it is a complete payoff.
I mean, Bezos also gave $1 million to the inauguration fund. It's like, all right, that's a little chump change in those guys' world, and it's a gesture to Trump. But to write a check for $40 million to his wife, that's basically giving a bribe to Trump himself.
Yes, and to his vanity, everything else, you know. Yeah, because that's not that interesting of a story. Like, inquiring minds are not really curious, you know.
And a true biography of her is not going to make her look good. She's obviously a gold-digging trophy wife. If you're going to spin that any other way, you're definitely doing propaganda.
Did you see they did a Martha Stewart story, kind of from beginning to where she is now in her life? It's a documentary on Netflix.
No, I haven't seen it.
You were sexually attracted to Martha Stewart, for a long time.
I think I probably still am. I mean, how old is she?
When she went to jail, I think she was 60 or 62. So, yeah, I mean, she's mid-70s, I would think. Hey, Siri, how old is Martha Stewart?
Martha Stewart is 83 years old.
83, dude.
She's older than my mom, and she looks damn